Let's talk about index match, which is my favorite formula for looking up data in Excel. But first, let's talk about vlookup. Vlookup is the OG formula for looking up data, and there's a good chance that you're still using it. But I'm here to tell you today that it's time to stop because it's a terrible formula. So what's terrible about it? Well, it can only search from left to right, or in other words, the lookup value must always be in the first column. It requires you to manually count the number of columns to build out the formula. Doesn't automatically update when a formula or column is added, and it's super vulnerable. Adding a column can cause your file to break entirely if you don't go in and fix it each time. So now let's take a look at index match. We are now looking at monthly revenue data for our fictional company by campaign name and by account executive. And what we need to do is create a monthly sales commission statement. And usually we would create that on a separate tab or a separate page, but let's just create it here to the right for simplicity purposes. The first thing we're going to do is sort this by account executive. So let's start here in cell B5, use Control-Shift-Right arrow to select this entire range. Then Alt-A-T to add a filter. And then under account executive, we can filter, or rather sort, by A to Z. Great. Alex, we've already done. So we're going to move on down to Anne. So let's go ahead and copy her name right here to the top of the commission statement. And then we can see that campaigns 15 through 24 apply to her. So let's copy over those campaign names. Let's copy, come over here, and paste them on her statement. So the first thing we're going to do is bring in the monthly revenue for each of those campaigns using index match. So let's start the formula with equals index, and hit tab. And the first thing the formula is asking for is an array. And in this case, the array will specifically be the range of data where you would like to search. And in this case, we're looking for the monthly revenue, which is in column C. So let's go over to column C, hit Control spacebar to select the entire column, and then comma. And the next thing it asks for is a row number. But rather than count the number of rows and input the row number, we're going to use the match function so that it finds it for us. So let's type match, hit tab. And now it asks for a lookup value, which in this case, it will be the campaign name in cell I6. So just hit left arrow and then F4 3 times to anchor on column I, comma, and now it asks for the lookup array, which will be the campaign names in column B. So let's go over to column B, hit Control spacebar to select the entire column, F4 to anchor, comma, and now it asks for a match type. And in this case, we want exact match, which is 0. Then close paren, enter. And there you go. It brings in the monthly revenue based on the campaign name. And now for the deal size, we can simply select these 2 cells, then use Control R to fill right. And it's important to anchor on the correct things. As you can see here, we anchored on column I in the lookup value, and then column B in the lookup array, but we specifically did not anchor in the first array because we wanted the formula to copy over from monthly revenue to deal size when filling this out in the commission statement. Great. Now the next thing we need to fill out is the commission rate. And that's going to come from the commission plan, which is this next tab over. So let's start with equals index, hit tab. Then use Control page down to tab over. And the commission rate is in column D. So let's use Control spacebar to select the entire column for the array, and then comma, match. And the lookup value will be back on the data tab. So let's use control page up to go back temporarily. And in this case, we're going to bring in the commission rate based on the deal size in cell K6. Let's hit F4 3 times to anchor on column K, then comma. And now for the lookup array, we need to go back to the commission plan tab. So use control page down. And it's going to be based on the deal size, which is in column C. So let's go to column C and use control spacebar to select the entire column, F4 to anchor on that column, comma. And for now, let's use exact match again of 0. Close paren, enter. And you can see that it returns an error because it's not finding a value based on this deal size. And thankfully, there's an easy fix to that. And the answer is in the match type. Rather than use match type 0, we're going to use match type 1, which you can see here is match type for less than. And it says it finds the largest value that is less than or equal to a lookup value, and the lookup array must be placed in ascending order. And our lookup array on the commission plan tab was already placed in ascending order, so should work just fine. So hit enter, and there you go. It finds a commission rate of 5%. And then the last thing we need to do is just calculate the monthly commissions, and we'll do that by saying equals monthly revenue multiplied by the commission rate. Enter. Perfect. And then finally, we can select everything in cells J6 through M6, and then continue to hold shift and then down arrow all the way to the bottom at the end of campaign 24, and use control D to fill down. And there we go. Then here under this range, I'm going to do an auto sum, hit Alt equals, that's a 4S. Let's add a little border here. Great, and that's and commissions for the month. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick. These campaign names we manually copied in, but let's say you wanted to automate this piece, which we can do, and I'm going to show you how. Go ahead and delete this for now. Now, the campaign name can be brought in based on the account executive's names, and we can do that by saying equals index, and then the campaign name will be the array in column B, so comma, match, and the lookup value will be up here in cell I3, or the account executive's name. So I hit F4 to anchor, comma, and then the lookup array will be in column E. So let's use control spacebar to select that entire column, hit F4, comma, let's use 0 for exact match, close paren, enter. Perfect. And you'll see right off the bat, it brings in campaign 15, which is the first campaign for Anne. Now let's do this. Let's just copy the formula down. Wait a second. Now it's bringing in campaign 15 for everything. And the reason for that is that the index match formula always brings in the first result, which in this case is campaign 15. And the workaround for this is to use this row number portion in the index formula. So what we're going to do is number these campaigns. So this will be number 1. And everything else will be 2, 3, all the way down to 10. And you'll see here that the campaign below campaign 15 is campaign 16. So that's what we want to be reflected here in the number 2 campaign. So let's go back into the formula. And in the row number portion, we're going to say +1 because we want it to go down, or rather look at the next result. So hit enter, and there you can see it has campaign 16. And then the next one, same thing. Go back into the row number portion, but now we're going to say we want to go down 2 rows, +2. Enter. And there you go, campaign 17. But doing that manually for each one of these is not very efficient. So we don't want to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is use these numbers that we just inserted in column H. So instead of the +1, we're going to say plus H7 minus 1. And that essentially gives us a +1. And then from there, you can simply Control-C, Control-Shift down arrow, enter, to copy down that formula. And it automatically pulls in all the correct campaigns. And then we can even copy that up to this one here, campaign 15. Perfect. Works out nicely, huh? Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is that we're bringing in monthly revenue here based on index match. And remember that the index match formula always brings in the first result in the array that we're looking for. But what happens if there are duplicates? Well, let's check if there are any duplicated campaign names. Let's select all column B, and let's use Alt H L to go to conditional formatting, H for highlight cell rules, D for duplicate values, and enter. And there we can see that Ann Lewandowski doesn't have any duplicates. So we don't need to worry about the monthly revenue formula bringing in the wrong amount that's applicable to a different account executive. But if there were duplicates for her specifically, you could either use the sum is formula with multiple criteria to bring in the correct value that applies to her, or we can use a workaround, an index match. And I'm going to show you how. The first thing to do is go to the left of your data here, and we're going to create a new formula that says equals campaign name and the account executive. Enter. And we can copy that all the way down. And I like to highlight this entire column so that I know it's a formula that I added to the data. And then when we go back to this index match formula, the way to ensure that we're pulling the correct revenue for the correct campaign and the correct account executive is to use this match function to say, look at campaign 15 and the account executive's name, anchor on that, hit F4. And then for the lookup array, rather than looking at this original campaign name column, we're going to move it over to this new column that we created. Hit enter. And we can just copy it down, Control-C, Control Shift down arrow, enter. And it copies it down so that no matter what, you're ensuring that you're always pulling in the correct amount based on the correct campaign and the correct account executive. Hopefully this has been helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and thanks for watching. Talk soon.